Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am in Greenwood, Mississippi, and I'm going to talk about in this episode the life of country singer Bobbie Gentry. She paved the way for many women in country music. She was a great songwriter, vocalist, and at the time I'm doing this video, she is still living. She's 82 years old. However, she's been out of the public eye for over 40 years, and I may talk about that too, like maybe what are her whereabouts. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and show you a historical marker dedicated to her, as well as the bridge that inspired the song Ode to Billie Joe, which went to #1 for 4 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1967. So, all right. Okay, this is Grand Street. And this was, I believe, intentionally placed by the Tallahatchie Bridge. Well, it's actually called the Ashwood Bridge, but in the song Ode to Billie Joe, it talks about Tallahatchie Bridge. But Bobbie Gentry was born Roberta Lee Streeter in Chickasaw County in 1944 and spending her childhood here. Bobbie Gentry brought the accents, sounds, and images of Delta life into scores of haunting songs she wrote and records she made to become one of the most influential country and pop artists of the 1960s and 70s. With her phenomenal #1 hit Ode to Billie Joe and complex, innovative albums such as the Delta Sweetie, she brought the sultry musical flavors of Mississippi country to the world. And on the back there's more details. I forgot to mention that this is part of the Mississippi Country Music Trail, as there are many of these markers all around the great state of Mississippi. But a little bit more details on Bobbie Gentry. Her parents divorced when she was very young, and she was raised there by her Streeter grandparents until she entered school here in Greenwood, where her father resided. She was attracted to blues, country, and particularly gospel music even as a child. She taught herself how to play piano by observing the church choir pianist and was writing songs by the age of 7. Gentry, who was reared in poverty, later referred to her rural upbringing as a privilege and worked the flavors and rhythms of the Delta into the heart of her music. At the age of 13, she moved to California to live with her mother, taught herself guitar, banjo, and bass, and took the stage name Bobbie Gentry, after the rags to riches backwoods young woman in the Hollywood film Ruby Gentry. While finishing high school in Palm Springs, the stunning and nobly bright young woman began appearing in local clubs and was briefly a chorus dancer in Las Vegas. After graduation, however, she enrolled at UCLA, where she pursued a degree in philosophy and studied music theory at the Los Angeles Conservatory of Music. In 1963, she recorded and co-wrote several songs with rockabilly artist Jody Reynolds, who had that song called Endless Sleep. In 1967, Capitol Records heard her demo and tape of original songs and signed her to the label. The first single was intended to be the smoky, rhythmic Mississippi Delta, but disc jockeys were attracted to her mysterious, deadpan ballad on the other side called Ode to Billie Joe. It sold 3 million copies, reaching the top 20 in country, and the album by the same name topped both country and pop charts. She was a host of the first Country Music Association Awards ceremony a few months later, also known as CMA Awards. Her albums, The Delta Sweetie and Local Gentry in 1968, and Fancy and Patchwork in 1970, offered striking original Southern Gothic ballads and lush pop musical settings of her own devising, but were only marginally successful. She returned to the top 20 in country and pop with duet versions of the Everly Brothers' Let It Be Me in 1968 and All I Had to Do Is Dream in 1969, which was recorded with Glen Campbell. R-rated frequent television variety show guest performer, her pop success in England with I'll Never Fall in Love Again led to starring in her own series there in 1969 and a U.S. series in the summer of 1974. In 1976, a movie was made about Ode to Billie Joe, and she re-recorded that song. Robbie Benson was in that movie. She married twice during her years of stardom, to casino operator Bill Harrah, then to singer Jim Stafford, with whom she had a son. Gentry retired from performing in public life in 1982. And before I talk about post-1982 and things that happened before that, I'm going to go ahead and show you some pictures. See, she was very good looking back then. I mean, she had long hair. I mean, the rags to riches thing. That's her grandparents. Her on the cover of a magazine with Glen Campbell. Now the bridge I'm about to show you is not this one in this picture. This is just south of town and across the Yazoo River. One of her albums, The Delta Sweetie. And every one of these has a record on top. What happened to Bobbie Gentry? Okay, so, I mean, I can't really answer that question. I don't know her personally. She don't know me. I did listen to a podcast episode as well as a couple videos here on YouTube about what may have happened to Bobbie Gentry. Sure, yeah, she wanted to disappear from the public eye. I mean, she felt like she made her mark good enough. But apparently she was very wise with managing her money, and she made some wise investments. Like, she invested, I think it was, I can't remember if it was $50,000 or $50 million on the Phoenix Suns basketball team. In the 1970s, NBA wasn't as big as it is now, but the team's net worth grew, and that made her much richer. But she also made some other investments with her money, and some say she basically just took the money and run. Or took the money and ran, something like that. Now, some say she lives in Memphis. I mean, nobody knows that for sure. I don't want to, like, disrupt her privacy. Maybe she lives here in Greenwood or elsewhere in the United States, and maybe she lives in California. Or maybe she chose to spend her rest of her life here in the South. I don't know. But I'm sure she's living her best life. The most recent photo of her I saw of hers was in 2000. And by that time, she had grown fully gray. Or maybe she dyed it that way. Alright, here is the Tallahatchie River. If you have heard the song Ode to Billie Joe, yes, it is about the narrator and the friendship with Billie Joe McAllister, who jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge. Now, I don't think it was this one, but there's been a lot of other different theories. I'm just going to go ahead and go a little farther up to the river where I can see it. Alright, so like I said, I'm standing on the Ashwood Bridge on top of the Tallahatchie River, which is one of Mississippi's longest rivers. But the story was very tragic because apparently the narrator of the song, who of course was a woman or a girl, maybe they were about to start a romance, or maybe they broke apart, or friendship or romance. But the first thing was they threw something off this bridge. Let's pretend it was this bridge for a moment. Now, a lot of people were wondering what they were throwing off the bridge, like if it was a ring, a flower. It was one of music's biggest mysteries. But Bobbie Gentry herself refused to say what it was, and it actually kind of got her angry. She's like, well, that's not even relevant to the song or to the story. But Billie Joe McAllister would later jump off this bridge. Terrible tragedy. The word spread around town, and they're like, well, I saw him at the sawmill the other day at Chickasaw Ridge. And it's weird because June 3rd is known as the death date of Billie Joe McAllister. It was the 3rd of June, blah, blah, blah. You know, the opening lines of the song. Now, I have not seen the movie. I mean, it wasn't really high on my priority list, but now I'm kind of tempted to see what the movie was about. And, I mean, it wasn't a hit movie, nor was it a classic. I don't even know what Miss Gentry thought about the movie. And one more thing worth noting about Bobbie Gentry. So, like I said, she influenced a lot of female singers from past to present, like Tanya Tucker, I mean, maybe Taylor Swift, but plenty more. Wynonna Judd. But Reba McEntire took one of the songs that Bobbie Gentry wrote, and it is it is Reba McEntire's signature song. The song is called Fancy. It was briefly mentioned on the historical marker. Now, Bobbie Gentry wrote the song in 1970 and issued it on her album. Now, it didn't make the pop charts, but it made the country music singles chart, and it charted really low. However, the song gained a new life in 1987 when it appeared on Reba McEntire's album, and it was released as a single, and the song only went to number 9, which, compared to most of her other songs, it was kind of a disappointment. even though it hit the top 10, because Reba's got like got so many top 10 hits, so many #1 hits, and of course in her own right she is one of the most successful female country singers of all time. Well, this is the song that she always performs in encores at her concerts, and this is her most streamed song on both YouTube and Spotify. Not sure about Apple Music and all the other streaming sites, but Fancy is a song about, you know, I don't want to go into the whole details, but yes, it's pretty much about a girl who doesn't want to disappoint her mother, and so she turns to prostitution. I mean, there's so much other, but growing up in a poor white trash family, yeah, that's pretty much what it says in the song. I don't want to go into too much details about it, but... Alright, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason in Greenwood, Mississippi, talking about the life of Bobbie Gentry. Sign off.